Hey everyone, we're checking out the Galaxy Note 9. This is Samsung's latest smartphone. Essentially, these are the two new colors, ocean blue and lavender purple. One of the perks about the ocean blue is that the Style S Pen doesn't match the color. Actually, it's a contrasting yellow color, which is kind of neat. But before we dive into the S Pen and other features of the phone, let's get down to some specs first. It's got the Snapdragon 845 that's tuned a little better with this new water cooling system to help it with performance with gaming. And that's because the Fortnite is actually going to be available on S9 devices and Note 9 devices first before, I guess, it launches on Android devices later this year. It's got the Snapdragon 845, comes with 6 gigs of RAM or 8 gigs, and the storage options for those respective sizes are 128 gigs and 512 gigs of storage. So that's a lot of space, and of course there's a micro SD card as well, and Samsung is pushing out a 512 mega micro SD card slot later this year, so you're going to be able to use a terabyte of storage on this phone, which is pretty insane. Also in here is a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, so you get tons of battery life power. We'll have to put it through its paces to really see how long it'll last, but we're confident this should last you definitely more than a day, probably even 2 days. Over on the front, you still get that infinity display. It's 6.4 inches now, so it's slightly bigger than last year's Note 8. Still with a Quad HD resolution, it's quite sharp. Bezels are ever so slightly thinner, which is where we think they've got that slight size adjustment, and it truly is a beautiful AMOLED screen. Another new killer feature of the S Pen is Bluetooth functionality. You might think you need to charge it, but actually there's a supercapacitor built in, so 40 seconds of leaving it in the Note 9 like this will actually keep it charged for 30 minutes. But what does this Bluetooth functionality let you do? There's actually a wide range of things. So using the button, you can customize things. The Samsung setting, Galaxy Note 9 to do different things, like say if I press and hold this button, it'll launch the camera, and now I can take a selfie. So for example, if I this on a tripod, or other things are, for example, scrolling through presentations, changing your playlist. So if you're walking around your house, you just have this in your pocket, or this, on your ear. You can change tracks, play pause music. Let's just take a quick look at how that looks. So we're gonna double tap, or actually we're gonna press and hold this. Now launches the camera. Now if I double tap in this, we got selfie and take a shot. Now let's double tap, and I'm going to move this to this, take a shot. So the camera setup on the back looks a little different from the S9, but it's actually quite similar. They've got dual OIS, dual 12 megapixel sensors, and it's got that variable aperture that we saw on the S9 earlier this year. What's cool about the camera on this phone, however, is that it has scene detection, which is kind of similar to what we've seen in phones like the LG G7, the Huawei P20. Essentially, if you take the camera and point it at, say, food or flowers or people, it should be able to recognize about 20 different scenes, and it does so pretty quickly. Right now I pointed it at the macaroons and it shows me food. So what it's going to do is not what we've seen it do on other phones. Basically, other phones tend to blow out the colors. This phone, they're claiming that they can adjust contrast, white balance, color to make it much more of a magazine style photo that they want you to share immediately instead of using a filter. So we're going to test how that works. So far in our test, it actually looks quite good. It's not oversaturated or anything like that. So one of the other cool things about the camera is that actually when you take a photo of, say, someone blinking in a group, the camera will alert you on the side saying, oh, someone might have blinked, you might want to take that photo again. And the same applies if it notices that there's a smudge on the camera on the front or the back. In terms of the Type-C port, it's not only used for charging, you can actually also plug a HDMI Type-C cable into an HDMI output port and connect it to a computer, and that way you don't actually need the DeX pad or DeX station that they released earlier this year. Plug it into a monitor and basically you get that Samsung DeX Android tablet experience, or Android desktop experience I should say, which basically makes it much easier to use with sort of a keyboard and mouse. Alternatively though, the screen when you plug it in turns into a mouse pad, so you can actually just use the screen as a mouse, and when it comes time to sort of input text into a particular browser or something like that, the keyboard will pop up so you can just pick up your phone and keep typing, or as well keep using the phone while you're using the screen, sort of as a dual screen experience. Of course, you get the same Samsung flagship features, IP68 water resistance, a headphone jack, fast wireless charging, and actually Samsung's coming out with a duo pad wireless charging thing where you can charge 2 devices, not just 2 phones, but say a Galaxy Sport wearable and a phone as well. We're not 100% sure about pricing just yet, but the Galaxy Note 9 in both colors will be the same price. It'll start going on sale for pre-orders on August 10th, with official retail beginning on August 24th. We'll get more to you soon about the Note 9, so stay tuned.